right now in relation to the Latino community. The Latin Times is a digital news agency which focuses on creating news for Latin Americans in the U.S. And I want to know a little bit about who you are, what's your past, where are you from? I assume you're Latina. What's your background? That sort of stuff. I know they probably don't have a Democratic Party in Venezuela, but when did you kind of realize that you identify with the Democratic Party and that you want to be part of that?
There is not a Democratic Party in Venezuela, but I always knew, like I share every single value that the Democratic Party does. I believe in freedom. I believe in the freedom of women to make their own choices about their bodies. And I believe that we have the right to be free from guns and violence. And I believe that this is a nation of immigrants. There is nothing, listen, you don't know what it is to me to see these Republicans, extremists, the MAGA agenda, like Trump. He wants to earn the birthright, to kids that are born from undocumented immigrants. That's anti-American. That's anti-constitutional. That's not what we are as a country. DeSantis is another example, like sending migrants in buses and airplanes, promising that they will have jobs when they get wherever they are, and when they get there, there is only the coal in the street. Like using immigrant as political pawns. Using our people, using our pain, while Joe Biden keeps delivering for Latinos. We have like the lowest unemployment in American history for Latinos was under Joe Biden. He created 40 million jobs. 4 million of those jobs were for Latinos. Latinos have more access than ever, to an affordable health care. Let's talk about, the boom of Latino small businesses. It's something, like for me, it's something about freedom, about common sense as well. Like I share every value of the Democratic Party for sure, and I'm proud, to fight this fight with the Democratic Party and with President Biden, because he fights for everything I believe in.
So, one other question I had a few more actually, but
I have time.
what what can the DNC? Well, I guess not the DNC. More now, it's the Biden-Harris administration. What have they done for Latinos during these last 4 years, last 3 years, and why would Latinos want them to continue being the president for them?
Sure. Well, as I was just saying a minute ago, like not any administration has delivered for Latinos the way Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has done. As I said, we reached the lowest unemployment for Latinos in American history under their leadership. We have more access than ever. Latinos have more access than ever to have an affordable health care. The small businesses, I think one quarter of every small business that opens in the United States is Latino. So it's just, it's like just putting the field to have opportunities for everyone. And that's something unvaluable, like having more access than ever to have an affordable healthcare. That's really important. And let's talk about, the Dreamers, for example. Thanks to President Biden, Dreamers has access for the very first time to have a healthcare insurance. That's really important. Of course, there are a few things that need to be done, like the reform, like the immigration reform that we need, but President Biden can't do that without the Republicans. Congress needs to act, but he's still working, the extra mile. And for my people, for example, Donald Trump always, talk about Venezuela. Venezuela was a huge, theme on his campaign and during his administration. But during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president, the situation in Venezuela got way worse than it was. He wasn't even able to sign with his pen a TPS with an executive order for 4 years. Joe Biden signed that TPS on his first month in the office, And Republicans, they talk a lot of game. They talk about Latinos, but there's nothing substantial there. They haven't done anything for us except, push that xenophobic agenda, anti-immigrant agenda, that hurts our community really, really bad. And trying to cut taxes for the richest, what is our people that is suffering the consequences. So that's the contrast, that's the difference, and that's what Latinos should consider the day that they are going to cast their vote. Who have done things for me?
And what can Biden Harris do for Latinos that a Republican candidate couldn't or wouldn't?
I mean, one, surprisingly ahead the midterms, one of the things that it was like a big surprise for me, it was, for example, that abortion was the third priority for Latinos ahead the midterms. And it wasn't something about abortion per se, because we know that there is like a religious component in there. It was about freedom. It was, I came to this country to be free. I brought my daughter or my granddaughter to this country to be free. And non white politicians should be deciding if my granddaughter should have an abortion or no, especially if her life is at risk. If like, that's one example. They fight for the things that matter for us. Joe Biden is fighting for the things that matter for us: gun safety, prevention of violence, violence for guns. Like, that's the fourth priority for Latinos in this cycle. While Republicans receive money from the NRA, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they don't take actions to protect our children that are being killed at the schools and the street. Joe Biden passed the first, major legislation for gun safety in 30 years, which is not enough, because we need a major reform. But again, we have the extremism, the money, the special interest, the NRA paying these Republicans. Basically, Joe Biden is fighting for the things that matter to us, for us to have better jobs, for us to have more opportunities. That's basically, what people should consider when they go to cast their vote in the ballot in 2024.
There's been a little bit of a increase of Latinos who are voting Republican, but there's still a large number of Latinos which are voting Democrats. Why do Democrats, in your opinion, lean more so towards voting Democrat?
Because that's the party that fights for them. I mean, we don't take any vote for granted. We know that we have to earn every Latino vote and that we have to fight for it. That's why we are investing earlier than ever, more than ever, to reach Latino voters, not only on TV and radio, the traditional airwaves, but also on YouTube, on Hulu, on Instagram, on the places where Latinos consume their news, but also like in sport platforms, where you have football games, and trying to think out of the out of the box to meet Latinos where they are. We don't take anything for granted, but as you said, President Biden won the Latino vote 2-1 in 2020. Uh, we were able to maintain that support in 2022 ahead the midterms, and we won the Latino vote in places like Pennsylvania and Arizona 3-1. But we'll keep doing the work, because I believe that our biggest challenge is to translate, to take the message to Latinos of everything President Biden have done for them.
And why do you think that there's been this slight increase in Latinos voting Republican?
That increase is particularly in some focus like South Florida, where there is like a coordinated campaign of misinformation that is very, very, very hard to combat, to to approach. um it at the beginning it seemed like something organic, but it's definitely something paid, coordinated, and it's really hurting our community, spreading lies about President Biden, but even spreading lies about things that Republicans have done that they haven't, and that's going to be part of our challenge, in 2024, to fight that misinformation, to get the facts, to get, the truth, to our Latino community across battleground states, but across the country.
Moving forward, how are you going to reach out to the Latino community this next year?
We're already on it, as I said. We started earlier than ever. um More aggressively than ever. We are doing ads in Spanish, in English, targeting Latinos, but also in Spanglish to talk to, to our younger Latino community. And listen, it's an honor for me, to work with Julie Chavez Rodriguez, which is the first campaign manager Latina. And she really understands that we have to walk the extra mile to talk to every single Latino. She's doing interviews all over the country, talking to reporters, talking to stakeholders, traveling. We went to California for the Republican debate. We went to Wisconsin for the Republican debate, because it's also important for us, to mark that contrast on what President Biden has done for Latinos. And you know it's what I said at the beginning, the contrast between Republicans, that they talk, but they don't do anything, and the actions and everything President Biden have done for us.
So one thing that the RNC instituted was out community centers. Is that something that Biden-Harris might consider for this
Listen,
campaign?
listen, Joshua. We have been organizing, the Democratic Party have been organizing in those communities for generations. We don't need to announce with, noise and flags that we are opening an office in places where we have been forever, for generations. In Texas, for example, we'll keep doing the work. We'll keep working with our people, with our community leaders across the country, our volunteers, super volunteers, grassroots supporters, to take the message. But, like, I've heard from a couple reporters in the past that if you go to these community centers, they are not even where they're supposed to be. Some of them are empty, like, as I said, actions versus.
Give me an example of how moving forward you're going to, make an effort to speak with the Latinos, personally. How are you going to execute that?
Of course, well, as I said, we are already investing in ads, which is important. They need to hear on the radio, on TV, on Hulu, and everywhere they consume news what President Biden has done for them, but also traveling across the country, having, like our text message program in Spanish, our text message targeting Latinos, and, talking to community leaders, our coalitions, community leaders in every state, the state parties as well, the DNC and the Biden-Harris campaign. We are working super close, and we are using a lot of the DNC's infrastructure, which is huge and super solid. They send text messages in Spanish. They organize, mobilize people in Spanish, and, Latinos state by states, like the Hispanic caucuses of every state party. It's a massive operation. And as I said, we are, working on a strategy, and that's our plan, to reach every Latino across the country.
Through your work, are you going to be spending time with speaking with Latino communities in person too, hearing their voices and what they would like?
Of course, we do that all the time. Like, we were in California for the second Republican debate. I think it was October 27. So we were in California, and we had, this is just an example because it's something that we do pretty often. So there was like two teams over there. One team from the DNC, it was the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, their Latino coalitions director, Michelle Villegas Tapia, and a part of his team. And from the BFP, from the Biden for President side, it was myself, Julie Chavez, our campaign manager, Michael Tyler, which is our communications director. And what we do is, like, we have this roundtables, gathering, with community leaders. We had one specifically for Latino men, and we have one with community leaders and women. And, ahead of the midterms, we had a lot of them with Chair Harrison. And that's a big part of what we do. And also virtually, we have hosts like the last couple of months, I'll say like 3 or 4 calls with stakeholders from all over the country to talk about their concerns, to listen how they feel that we should be addressing specific issues. One specifically for Latino men, one with the diaspora groups that I just mentioned, the Colombians, Cubans. We had one with them as well, to approach the diasporas. And that's something that we try to do all the time, to be in touch with the people on the ground, with, community leaders, and the people that is knocking on doors, like the people who is really important is in this operation.